Okay, so let me get this straight. You're telling me that you're a Christian and you believe in science. Yeah? Okay, you can't have both science and religion, though. You need to pick between the two. They're completely separate things. You either can have your belief in God, or you can choose to believe in the fact that science proves everything. Who is that? Hmm? Oh, him? That is the logical inconsistency goblin. He just can't stand when atheists regurgitate inconsistent information that honestly is just cliche to spout off at this point. Oh. My dog's hair is on my brand new laptop. Last time I made a YouTube video, my mouth sounded like this the whole time. So, sorry to those who watched and noticed. Maybe you didn't notice. Hopefully you didn't. There is a statement that atheists and agnostics like to make, which is essentially you can't have science and also have religion. They're mutually exclusive. And I don't really understand where that comes from. Now, the reality is that science actually helps the case for God more than anything, especially in the case of the origins of the universe. And to be honest with you, I've never seen an atheist or an agnostic effectively refute the idea that God is the author of the universe. So the discussion that you and I are going to have today is about an argument for God that I think is probably one of the most effective. And once again, atheists just simply can't answer this. They don't have a good rebuttal to this. This argument for God is called the cosmological argument. Now, I'm mainly going to be going over what theologians and apologists have called the Kalam cosmological argument, and you'll see it laid out here. There are different branches of the cosmological argument, but they all essentially say, in a roundabout way, the same thing. But before I even get into it, let me know down in the comments section, are you an atheist who can explain the origins of the universe effectively without borrowing from a theistic worldview? I'd love to hear your perspective on that, because once again, I just haven't heard it explained well enough. And if you're a Christian or anywhere in between, let me know if you learned anything from this video. I want to know if I'm making content that's actually helping people. My goal is to help people learn and promote healthy dialogue and conversation with these videos. So if you gained something, I'd really love to hear it, not just for the algorithm boosting my video, but also just so I know that I'm doing something right. Now, before we get into all the nerdy stuff, there's one specific law of nature that you and I have to unpack before we get into anything else, and that is the law of causality. The law of causality says that everything in the observable universe has a cause. Now, the one exception, or so it seems the exception, to the law of causality is the origins of the universe. And for centuries, scientists have been discussing and studying where did our universe come from? And for a while, by the secular community, it was assumed that the universe was infinite or eternal, that it has always existed all the time. Is there a freaking fly in here? Oh my gosh, there's a freaking wasp. I don't know what to do. Hopefully I don't die. So for centuries, secular scientists kind of came to the conclusion that the universe has always just been infinite, that the universe has just always existed and always will exist. One of the most notable non-Christian scientists that studied this and built a theory for this is someone that you've maybe heard of by the name of Albert Einstein. According to Einstein's theory of general relativity, there was a starting point in the universe, and there's not much debate to be had about it. Now, for a lot of you watching, maybe some atheists watching, you may be thinking, okay, so yeah, Einstein was an intelligent guy. Maybe he got this wrong. Or maybe you do believe in the origins of the universe, and you're asking, what does that do for Christianity? I don't know where the wasp went. I think he's getting closer. Now, this discovery is deeply significant because, like I said before, according to the law of causality, this is how we do all science. And so if we found that the universe had an origin, had a beginning at some point, that means somewhere out there, there's a cause for the universe. Now, maybe you're a skeptic and you're not totally convinced by Einstein, and that's okay. There's other examples too. How about a man by the name of Edwin Hubble? In 1927, as Hubble was using his infamous telescope, he began to observe that the galaxies in the observable universe that he was looking at were moving. But they weren't just moving, they were moving away from us. Hubble had just made the fascinating discovery that the universe was in fact expanding. If the universe was expanding and still is expanding in 2025, it probably had to expand or start from somewhere, right? In other words, this information that we have demands a cause, right? What's actually really funny is that Einstein went to the Hubble telescope and looked through it himself, and like I mentioned before, was not thrilled by the discovery he found. He didn't want to find that the universe had an origin. He wanted to find that it was infinite. Now, I'm breezing through this information fast. If you want an in-depth study on these concepts, specifically the cosmological argument and tons others, this book right here has changed my life. This is called I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist by Dr. Frank Turek and Norman Geisler. These two are Christian apologists who set out to essentially say that it takes more faith to be an atheist than it takes to be a Christian. There's a link that I have for this book in the description of this video, and it's $17. If you are interested in Christian apologetics, if these sorts of things that I'm sharing with you boost your faith, make you feel more confident in your faith, $17 for this is probably one of the best purchases you'll ever make. In addition to this book, I would also recommend checking out some videos I have down in the description as well. I have a playlist by Dr. Frank Turek. His ministry is called Cross-Examined, and I linked a playlist with a bunch of very short videos. I think they're like 1 to 3 minutes each, and they essentially go over the cosmological argument. I also pasted a link down below from a channel called Inspiring Philosophy, where he goes over the cosmological argument from a little bit more of a philosophical lens. Now, because of the law of causality, Einstein's theory of general relativity, and the expansion of the universe that was clearly observed by the Hubble telescope, this is where we get the concept of the Big Bang. Now, if you're a Christian and you grew up with the understanding that Big Bang equals evolution, that's not at all what the Big Bang necessarily means. You obviously can have a world where the Big Bang exists and evolution exists, but you don't have to subscribe to the belief in evolution to also believe in the Big Bang. Because here's the thing, the Big Bang is not a problem for Christians. It's actually a solution for Christians. It's a solution to the skeptical Christians, or just the skeptics in general, who are asking the question, why? Why are we here? Now let me prove this to you with going back to the law of causality. Is the Big Bang the answer to the origins of the universe? Atheists who believe in the Big Bang will tell you yes. But I hope, as either a Christian or someone who is reasonable, can see the pitfall that might happen if somebody says that the final origin of the universe is the Big Bang, because that leaves us in a pickle, doesn't it? What caused the Big Bang? Once again, going back to the law of causality, everything in the observable universe has a cause. This, I think, is where Christians, or at the very least theists, have an answer to this problem. In order for the Big Bang to occur, there has to be something outside of the observable world that caused the Big Bang, aka an uncaused cause. This is where God easily fits into the picture. Now, skeptics will say, but what caused God? If we go back to Einstein, his theory of general relativity proves that time, space, and matter are all interdependent on one another, which essentially means that you can't have one without the other. If the Big Bang was indeed the origin of time, space, and matter, well, then something outside of the observable world, which contains those components, would have to have caused those things to exist. And of course, God meets this criteria by being spaceless, timeless, and immaterial. Now, all we've really done is provided pretty substantial evidence for a God. We haven't landed on what God. We haven't landed on, is Jesus credible? Is the Bible credible? And I hopefully will get there in the future in more videos to come. But if you want to take a small step right now that will help you understand why I think that Jesus is at least better than the fake version of Jesus that the Quran promotes, check out this video on the screen right now. I think you'll get a lot out of it. I'll see you over there in just a second.